You guys want to hear a story?
Yes. Yes.
Here's a story called Fear of Shirley. I believe one failure in life that we may all be guilty of at some point or another is allowing a fear to limit our growth and potential. Fresh out of college with a degree in accounting, I was a temporary office worker hired at a company as coverage for the credit manager who was on maternity leave. As part of the hiring process, I was sent for some typical office worker testing as well as psychological screening. The results of my testing were sent to the boss with the recommendation to hire me immediately and hold on to me for a future position. The company had about 20 employees, which included the boss and the managers of several departments. The company specialized in retail packaging. I quickly learned who each employee was and set out to learn what I needed to do in this temporary accounts receivable and collections position. I was to report directly to Shirley, who was the number 2 employee in the company. Shirley handled the payroll and accounts payable functions as well as the overall bookkeeping for the company. Shirley was in her 70s and had been with the company since it started. She was quite strict and very quiet. Everyone was terrified of her. My office was next to hers, and I would see grown men slowly go past my window making the sign of the cross on themselves as they went to her office. The warehouse manager reminded me very much of my own father, so to see him dread reporting to her when she beckoned him really got me worried. It seemed that Shirley knew everything, and no one could ever question anything without being reprimanded or made to feel really stupid. Since I was so new to the working world, I had very little confidence in my own performance. Therefore, witnessing coworkers quiver when they had to see her about payroll or any other matter resulted in my own hibernation in my office and simply avoiding any interaction with her unless she summoned me. The initial job duties were quite simple and included making collection calls and processing customer invoices. As I got these done, I found myself digging into other credit manager type functions that had been allowed to pile up as the manager was leaving for her baby's birth. I found things that needed filing, and I found filing that was done wrong. I found credit applications in a neglected pile and started to process them. All of this work was being done for several reasons, such as the desire to learn more and wanting to clean up the office, but mostly so I didn't have to interact with scared Shirley. Meanwhile, what I didn't realize was that as I got the office in shape, the boss and Shirley were having private meetings about me. Shirley had been with the company for more than 35 years and was a self-proclaimed old maid. Since she had no family in the area, she devoted herself to the company and spent as many hours at work as the boss would allow. She was slowing down and ready for the search to begin for her replacement. During the 6 weeks that I covered the credit manager's office, I was identified as the potential heir apparent for Shirley without knowing it. She was impressed with my work, and I had no idea because I was too afraid to engage her in any conversations. I allowed everyone else's preconceived notions about scary Shirley to make me shake in my shoes if I had to talk to her or ask her any questions. I watched some of her interactions with other employees and decided there was no way I would remain at this place and be afraid all the time. My plan was to work for the 6 weeks that I was hired for and look for something else through a temporary work agency. I realized I was a coward and would take the easy way out as soon as I could and still qualify for a reference. Well, my Ensign Pulver days of hiding from the captain, this analogy from the 1955 movie Mr. Roberts, was soon over when the woman who handled the bills was out sick and I had to step in. This required some quick training by Shirley. I quickly found that she was very soft-spoken and quite interested in showing me the way she did the job and what she expected. I was a quick learner, and that pleased her because she immediately trusted that she wasn't going to have to double-check everything I did. This still didn't get rid of the lump I got in my stomach when I had to work directly with her. I decided I had to force myself to stop being afraid to speak to this woman, or I would have to leave the company perhaps even before my temporary assignment was complete. Shirley normally had lunch alone in her office every day. I asked her if she would like to join me in the lunchroom instead of us both eating at our desks, and she accepted. I guess no one ever Soon after that, we started to sit in the lunchroom together daily and have conversations about our education and our personal lives. The rest of the employees watched this relationship start to develop and were also more welcoming of me as this temp worker who was now winning over scary Shirley. They would even ask me to be the go-between on occasion when they were afraid to speak to Shirley. My 6-week assignment was coming to an end. The boss and Shirley called me into a conference and offered me a position as office manager if I wanted to stay at the company. This was a new position that would encompass a few areas but still allow me to do accounting work, and I later learned it was Shirley's idea. It also came with a nice pay increase and benefits. The boss was delighted when I accepted the position and let me know that there was the hope that when the time came for Shirley's retirement, I would be waiting in the wings to fill her shoes. He didn't know that only a week earlier I was going to throw in the towel and leave the place because I allowed everyone else's perception of Shirley to make me a nervous wreck. By deciding to get to know Shirley instead of hide from her, I learned what an amazing woman she was. My failure was allowing my fear to rule my actions. This failure nearly stumped my career before it even started. Had I let my fear continue to keep me from really talking with Shirley, I would have missed out on so much. I would have remained a temporary office worker going from clerk job to clerk job because I didn't have the courage to step up to learn new things. Once I stopped being afraid of Shirley, I turned that failure around by being open-minded to listening to everything this woman was willing to teach me about the job. Her confidence in my learning ability helped me to learn confidence in my job performance. Our friendship expanded outside of the office as I introduced her to my children. My husband was in the military, which meant we lived far away from our families. Shirley became a substitute grandmother to my children. We enjoyed holidays together and became very close friends until the day she passed away. Thanks to her mentorship, my career developed from simple office worker to becoming the chief financial officer for a private school. The moral to this story is to make your own conception of people and situations. Don't allow other people's fears or attitudes become your fears and prevent you from experiencing all that life has to offer you. Shirley was my mentor and my friend. But first, she was the scariest person I had met besides the principal in grade school. I overcame my failure by facing my fears and allowing myself to grow. The end.
That was a great story.